There is one question that has haunted human beings for thousands of years. Why do the people we trust the most so often become the people who hurt us the most? A stranger can disappoint you. An enemy can attack you. But only someone you welcomed into your heart, someone you believed would always protect you, can leave a wound so deep that it changes the way you see people. Maybe you still remember that moment. One sentence, one lie, one secret, one decision. And suddenly, years of trust were broken in seconds. Since that day, your mind may have asked the same painful question again and again. Why did they do this to me? But the Buddha would point you toward a deeper question, not why they betrayed you, but why their betrayal still has power over your peace. Because betrayal does not truly begin on the day someone lies. It begins much earlier, inside the expectations we never question, inside the attachment we call love, inside the illusion that another human being can never change. In this video, you will discover 8 powerful Buddhist lessons that reveal why people betray those who love them most, why the deepest wounds often become our greatest teachers, and how to reach a place where no lie, no rejection, and no betrayal can ever steal your inner peace again. Because the greatest revenge is not making someone regret losing you. The greatest revenge is becoming so peaceful, so wise, and so free that they no longer have the power to disturb your heart. Stay until the very last lesson, because by the end, you may realize that the person who betrayed you did not destroy your life. They unknowingly began your awakening. The greatest betrayal begins with the illusion of certainty. There is something the human mind quietly longs for more than almost anything else. Certainty. The mind wants to know that the people it loves will always stay. It wants to believe that today's happiness will last forever. It wants promises that can never be broken. It wants relationships that never change. Deep inside, every human heart searches for something permanent in a world where everything is constantly changing. This desire feels natural. It feels comforting. It makes us feel safe. But according to the Buddha, this hidden desire is also the beginning of much of our suffering. Life was never meant to stand still. Everything moves, everything grows, everything changes. Yet the mind keeps whispering, "This person will always be the same. They would never hurt me. They will always choose me. They will never leave." Slowly, without even noticing it, we stop seeing the person for who they really are. Instead, we begin seeing the story our mind has created about them. That story feels so real that we forget it is only a story. When someone first enters our life with kindness, honesty, and love, we naturally feel grateful. They make us laugh. They listen when no one else does. They stand beside us during difficult days. Little by little, our trust grows stronger. There is nothing wrong with that. Trust is one of the most beautiful parts of being human. Without trust, no friendship can survive. No family can stay together. No love can become deep. But there is a quiet moment when healthy trust slowly becomes blind certainty. And that moment is very dangerous. We stop believing they are capable of making mistakes. We stop believing they can change. We stop believing they have weaknesses just like everyone else. Instead of seeing a human being, we begin seeing a permanent promise. This is where the illusion begins. The Buddha often taught that attachment begins long before pain appears. Most people think attachment means loving someone too much. But attachment is much deeper than that. Attachment is expecting life to stay exactly as it is because it makes us feel comfortable. Attachment is believing someone must continue making us feel safe forever. Love allows another person to grow. Attachment secretly tells them they are not allowed to change. Love accepts that people are imperfect. Attachment quietly demands perfection. Love understands that every human being has fears, confusion, weaknesses, and moments of failure. Attachment forgets all of that. It creates an image of perfection inside the mind. At first, this illusion feels wonderful. You begin sharing parts of yourself that no one else knows. Your deepest fears, your childhood memories, your dreams for the future, your pain, your hopes. You trust them with pieces of your heart because your mind keeps saying, "They will never use this against me. They could never become the reason I cry. They know me too well to ever betray me." These thoughts feel comforting, but they are built upon certainty, and certainty is something life can never guarantee. The Buddha reminded us again and again that everything in existence is changing every single moment. The seasons change, the weather changes, our bodies change, our thoughts change. Even the mountains slowly change with time. If everything in nature changes, why would we expect the human heart to remain exactly the same forever? Every experience shapes a person. Every disappointment leaves a mark. Every success changes priorities. Every fear changes decisions. Every temptation tests character. Every new environment influences the mind. Sometimes people become wiser. Sometimes they become selfish. Sometimes they become stronger. Sometimes they become lost. Sometimes they discover who they truly are. Sometimes they forget. The difficult truth is that no one wakes up exactly the same person every day. The person you loved 5 years ago has already changed. So have you. Growth is unavoidable. Change is unavoidable. Nothing in this world remains exactly the same. Yet our expectations often remain frozen in the past. We expect people to keep loving us exactly as they did before. We expect them to keep choosing us in the same way. We expect them to remain the person we first met. And when reality becomes different from our expectations, our heart begins to suffer. Notice something very important. The suffering does not begin because change exists. The suffering begins because we resisted that change. We believed it should never happen. Imagine planting a beautiful tree in your garden. When you first see it, it is small. Year after year it grows taller. Its branches become wider. Its leaves fall in autumn and return in spring. You would never become angry because the tree changed. You expect it. You understand that growing is its nature. Human beings are exactly the same. Their thoughts grow. Their emotions change. Their priorities shift. Their beliefs evolve. Sometimes they become kinder. Sometimes they become colder. Sometimes they move closer. Sometimes they move away. This is the nature of life. The Buddha compared existence to a flowing river. Stand beside a river for a few minutes. The water you touch now will never be the same water you touch a moment later. Everything keeps flowing. Everything keeps moving. Now imagine trying to hold that river still with your hands. No matter how tightly you grip it, the water slips away. Not because the river wants to hurt you, but because flowing is simply its nature. People are like that river. You cannot freeze another person's heart in time. You cannot force yesterday's feelings to remain forever. You cannot stop someone from changing. Trying to control change only creates more pain. Then one day, reality arrives. Perhaps they tell a lie. Perhaps they become distant. Perhaps they stop caring. Perhaps they choose someone else. Perhaps they betray the very trust you placed in them. In that moment, it feels as though everything collapsed overnight. But often, betrayal does not begin with one action. It begins much earlier. It begins when we quietly stop seeing someone as a changing human being and start believing they are incapable of disappointing us. We trusted not only the person, we trusted the image we built inside our own mind. And when reality no longer matches that image, the illusion shatters. This does not mean we should stop trusting people. The Buddha never encouraged people to close their hearts. He encouraged them to open their eyes. Trust with kindness. Love with sincerity. Care deeply. But never forget that every human being is still walking through their own inner battles. Some people will remain loyal until their final breath. Some will lose themselves along the way. Some will betray because of fear, some because of greed, some because of insecurity, some because they have never learned how to value the people who truly love them. Their choices belong to them. Your peace belongs to you. Do not hand your peace to another person's changing heart. The strongest person is not the one who never experiences betrayal. The strongest person is the one who remains kind without becoming naive, who remains loving without becoming attached, who remains wise without becoming bitter. Because true peace is not built upon the promise that people will never change. True peace is built upon the understanding that whatever changes around you, you will never abandon yourself. Sometimes the greatest betrayal is not the lie another person told. It is the quiet illusion your own mind believed without question. And the day that illusion finally breaks, you stop chasing perfect people. You stop demanding permanent certainty. You begin seeing people with clear eyes instead of hopeful fantasies. That is the moment your wisdom becomes stronger than your expectations, and that is where true inner freedom begins. People betray most easily what they stop appreciating. One of the saddest truths about the human mind is that it quickly becomes used to what it receives every day. At first, everything feels special. A kind word touches the heart. A small act of love brings tears to the eyes. A simple message can brighten an entire day. A loyal friend feels like a priceless gift. But as time passes, something begins to change, not outside. Inside the mind, what once felt extraordinary slowly begins to feel ordinary. The kindness that once amazed them becomes something they simply expect. The loyalty they once admired becomes something they assume will always be there. The love they once thanked you for becomes something they believe they deserve without effort. This is how appreciation quietly disappears. The Buddha often warned that the restless mind is rarely satisfied for long. Instead of appreciating what it already has, it keeps searching for what it does not have. It becomes fascinated by what is new. It becomes curious about what is distant. It begins chasing excitement while forgetting the quiet blessings already surrounding it. This is one of the greatest reasons people betray those who have always been faithful to them, not because loyalty lost its value, but because they stopped seeing its value. Think about a beautiful sunrise. The first time you watch it, you stand in silence. You admire every color. You feel grateful to witness something so beautiful. But imagine seeing that same sunrise every morning for years. Many people stop looking, not because the sunrise became less beautiful, but because their attention disappeared. Human relationships often follow the same pattern. The person who always supports them, the person who always forgives, the person who always answers the phone, the person who never gives up on them, slowly becomes invisible, not physically, emotionally. Their constant presence makes others believe they will never leave. So they stop expressing gratitude. They stop protecting the relationship. They stop making an effort. The relationship begins living on yesterday's love instead of today's appreciation. The Buddha taught that mindfulness is not only about breathing quietly, it is about seeing clearly. It is about recognizing the value of something before life takes it away. Most people only recognize the worth of loyalty after they have destroyed it. Only after silence replaces conversation. Only after distance replaces closeness. Only after regret replaces comfort. Then they suddenly remember everything they ignored, the messages they never answered, the sacrifices they never noticed, the patience they took for granted, the love they believed would always be waiting for them. But wisdom arrives too late for many people. There is another reason appreciation disappears. The ego quietly convinces people that they deserve endless love without giving the same love back. The ego whispers, "They'll understand. They'll forgive me. They're not going anywhere. I can apologize later." These thoughts seem harmless, but repeated often enough, they slowly destroy even the strongest relationships. Every healthy relationship survives because two people continue choosing each other, not because one person keeps giving while the other keeps taking. When only one heart carries the relationship, eventually that heart becomes exhausted. The Buddha often reminded people that balance creates harmony. Whenever balance disappears, suffering quietly enters. This applies to every relationship, friendships, families, marriage, even our relationship with ourselves. When giving and receiving lose their balance, pain slowly begins to grow beneath the surface. Sometimes betrayal does not happen in one dramatic moment. Sometimes it happens through hundreds of small moments. The forgotten thank you, the broken promise, the careless words, the lack of attention, the growing selfishness, the silent disrespect. Each one seems small, but together they slowly weaken trust until one final action causes everything to collapse. People often say, "I never saw it coming," but if they looked closely, they might discover the signs had been appearing for a very long time. The Buddha encouraged people to observe not only what others say, but how they live every day. Words are easy. Habit reveals the truth. Someone may tell you that they appreciate you, but appreciation is shown through actions. It is shown by respect, by honesty, by effort, by consistency, by choosing you even when it is inconvenient. Real appreciation protects what it values. It does not gamble with it. Sadly, many people only begin appreciating something after losing it. This is the strange habit of the human mind. It overlooks what is present and longs for what is absent. When someone leaves, their memory suddenly becomes precious. When trust is broken, its value suddenly becomes obvious. When love disappears, people finally understand how rare it truly was. The Buddha invited us to live differently. He encouraged us to appreciate every act of kindness while it is still in front of us. To recognize loyalty before it becomes memory. To value sincere people before life carries them in another direction. Because nothing in this world is guaranteed. Not another conversation. Not another chance. Not another tomorrow. There is also something important you must understand if you have been betrayed. Never believe that another person's lack of appreciation defines your worth. Many people make this mistake. They think, if I had been more beautiful, if I had loved them more, if I had done everything perfectly, they would have stayed. But that is rarely the truth. Sometimes the kindest people are betrayed. Sometimes the most loyal hearts are abandoned. Sometimes the people who gave everything receive almost nothing in return, not because they lacked value, but because the other person lacked awareness. A diamond remains valuable, even if someone mistakes it for an ordinary stone. Its value never changes. Only the person's understanding changes. Your kindness is the same. Your loyalty is the same. Your honesty is the same. Do not lower your value because someone failed to recognize it. The Buddha never taught people to become cold after betrayal. He taught them to become wise. Continue being kind. Continue being honest. Continue loving with an open heart, but also learn to notice who protects your kindness and who simply consumes it. The people who truly appreciate your presence will never make you wonder whether you matter. They will show you, not only through beautiful words, but through quiet, consistent actions. And perhaps that is one of life's greatest lessons. The deepest tragedy is not being betrayed by someone who stopped appreciating you. The greatest tragedy is spending your life trying to earn appreciation from someone who was never willing to see your worth. The day you stop chasing recognition from those who cannot value your heart, you discover a freedom that betrayal can never take away. Because your worth has never depended on another person's ability to appreciate it. It has always existed within you. The wise simply learn to stop placing priceless love into hands that only know how to treat it as something ordinary. A wounded heart often destroys the heart that loved it most. One of the hardest truths to accept after betrayal is this: the person who hurt you may have been carrying a pain you never saw. This does not mean what they did was right. It does not excuse their lies. It does not justify their betrayal. But if you truly want to understand why people hurt those who love them the most, you must first understand the condition of the human mind. The Buddha taught that every action begins inside the mind long before it appears in the world. A person's words begin as thoughts. Their choices begin as emotions. Their behavior begins as habits. And betrayal often begins inside a heart that has been restless for a very long time. Most people do not suddenly wake up and decide to destroy someone's trust. Instead, something has been growing quietly within them. Fear, jealousy, pride, greed, insecurity, resentment. These emotions rarely stay hidden forever. Sooner or later, they begin shaping the way a person sees everyone around them. Think about someone who constantly feels insecure. No matter how much love you give them, they still wonder if it is enough. They compare themselves to others. They fear being abandoned. They fear not being good enough. They fear being replaced. Eventually, those fears become stronger than reality itself. Instead of trusting your loyalty, they begin trusting their fear. And fear has a dangerous habit. It whispers lies that sound completely true. It says, "They will leave you one day. They must be hiding something. You cannot trust anyone. If you hurt them first, they cannot hurt you." Without realizing it, a fearful person begins creating the very outcome they were trying to avoid. The Buddha often reminded his followers that an uncontrolled mind creates its own suffering. A person who cannot find peace within themselves will struggle to create peace with anyone else. Imagine carrying a cup filled to the very top with muddy water. Every small movement causes the water to spill. Now imagine carrying a cup filled with clear, calm water. It remains steady. The mind works the same way. A peaceful mind responds with patience. A troubled mind reacts with fear. When someone's heart is already filled with anger, insecurity, or jealousy. Even a small misunderstanding can become a reason for betrayal. This is why two people can experience the exact same situation but respond in completely different ways. One chooses honesty, the other chooses deception. One chooses compassion, the other chooses revenge. The difference is not the situation. The difference is the condition of the mind facing that situation. Many people spend years trying to heal another person's broken heart. They believe that if they love enough, give enough, sacrifice enough, the other person will finally become whole. But this is one of the greatest misunderstandings in relationships. You cannot heal a wound that someone refuses to face. You cannot bring peace to a mind that continues feeding its own anger. You cannot give self-worth to someone who refuses to believe they are worthy. Healing is an inside journey. No one can walk it for another person. This is why some people betray the very person who loved them most, not because love was missing, but because inner peace was missing. A person can receive endless kindness and still feel empty. They can be surrounded by loyalty and still feel suspicious. They can hear words of love every day and still believe they are unwanted. The emptiness they feel is not caused by you. It was already living inside them. The Buddha compared the mind to a garden. If a gardener plants seeds of kindness, patience, gratitude, and wisdom, beautiful flowers will eventually grow. But if the garden is left untouched, weeds begin to spread on their own. Hatred grows, greed grows, jealousy grows, fear grows. No one needs to plant them. They appear naturally when awareness disappears. The same happens inside the human heart. If a person never examines their thoughts, if they never question their anger, if they never challenge their fears, those emotions slowly become their identity. After enough time, they no longer see the world clearly. They see everything through the pain they carry. A kind person looks suspicious. A loyal friend seems untrustworthy. A simple mistake feels like a personal attack. A loving relationship becomes something to control instead of something to cherish. Pain changes perception. This is why wounded people often hurt those who never intended to hurt them. There is another truth that many people overlook. Some people cannot receive healthy love because chaos feels familiar. If someone grew up surrounded by conflict, if they lived for years with rejection, if betrayal became normal in their life, then peace may actually feel uncomfortable. Without realizing it, they begin creating problems where none exist. Not because they enjoy suffering, but because suffering feels familiar. The mind often mistakes familiarity for safety, even when that familiarity is painful. The Buddha encouraged people to become deeply aware of their inner habits, because unconscious habits quietly control our lives. Until we become aware, we keep repeating the same patterns, the same arguments, the same fears, the same betrayals, the same regrets, again and again. Some people betray because they never learned how to face their own emotions. Instead of admitting, "I am afraid," they become controlling. Instead of saying, "I feel insecure," they become jealous. Instead of confessing, "I feel empty," they search for temporary excitement. Instead of taking responsibility, they blame everyone else. This is the tragedy of an unawakened mind. It looks outside for the cause of every problem, while refusing to look within. The Buddha taught that real freedom begins the moment we stop blaming the world for the storms living inside us. Only then can healing truly begin. If you have been betrayed, remember this: You may have been standing beside someone who smiled every day, while silently fighting battles they never spoke about. Again, this does not remove responsibility from their actions. Every person is responsible for the choices they make. But understanding the source of betrayal protects your own heart from carrying unnecessary guilt. Many people spend years asking, "What was wrong with me?" They search for flaws inside themselves. They replay every conversation, every decision, every mistake, believing that if they had been more patient, more attractive, more understanding, more loving, the betrayal would never have happened. But often the real battle was never inside you. It was inside the other person. You were trying to build a peaceful home while they were fighting a war inside their own mind. Eventually, that hidden war reached your relationship. This is why the Buddha encouraged compassion instead of hatred. Compassion does not mean allowing harmful people to stay in your life. It means understanding that people who create suffering are often suffering themselves. The person who truly knows peace has no desire to destroy another person's peace. The person who truly loves themselves has no need to betray someone who loves them. Only a confused mind believes another person's pain will somehow heal its own. But suffering has never been healed by creating more suffering. Darkness has never disappeared by creating more darkness. Only wisdom ends the cycle. Only awareness ends the cycle. Only inner peace ends the cycle. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson of all. Do not allow another person's wounded heart to become the reason your own heart becomes wounded forever. Let their choices teach you wisdom, not bitterness. Let their confusion deepen your understanding, not your hatred. Because the greatest victory after betrayal is not proving that they were wrong. It is refusing to become the kind of person who passes that same pain on to someone else. The world already has enough wounded hearts, creating more wounded hearts. Be the person who ends the cycle. That is the path the Buddha invited us to walk. And that is where true freedom begins. Your expectations create the pain betrayal cannot. When someone betrays your trust, the first wound is real. It hurts. There is no denying it. The disappointment is real. The tears are real. The feeling of being abandoned is real. But according to the Buddha, there is another wound that is often much deeper than the betrayal itself. It is the wound we create inside our own mind. This second wound is invisible. No one else can see it. Yet it often becomes the reason people suffer for months, years, sometimes even for the rest of their lives. The betrayal happened once, but the mind keeps making it happen again, and again, and again, long after the other person has walked away. Have you ever noticed what happens after someone hurts you? Your body may be sitting quietly in your room, but your mind refuses to stay in the present. It travels back to the same memories, the same conversations, the same promises, the same day everything changed. You replay every detail. You search for hidden signs. You wonder what you missed. You imagine different endings. You create hundreds of conversations that never actually happened. You ask yourself, what if I had said something different? What if I had noticed earlier? What if I had loved them more? What if I had stayed silent? What if I had walked away first? The mind keeps searching for an answer that cannot change the past. This is how one painful event quietly becomes thousands of painful thoughts. The Buddha taught that suffering grows whenever the mind argues with reality. Reality says, "It happened." The mind says, "It should not have happened." Reality says, "They changed." The mind says, "They promised they never would." Reality says, "It is over." The mind says, "It cannot be over." Notice where the suffering comes from. Not only from reality, but from fighting reality. The more we resist what has already happened, the more tightly suffering holds us. Imagine holding a burning piece of charcoal in your hand. You know it is hurting you, but instead of letting go, you keep squeezing it tighter. The pain becomes worse every second. The betrayal is like the charcoal. But your attachment to what should have happened is the hand refusing to let go. The Buddha often reminded his disciples that the mind creates chains long after the event itself has ended. Many people believe they are trapped by another person's betrayal, but often they are trapped by their own memories. Every morning begins with remembering. Every night ends with remembering. The person who hurt them may not even be thinking about them anymore. Yet they continue carrying that person everywhere. To work, to meals, to conversations, to bed every night. Not physically, mentally. The other person left once. But the mind keeps inviting them back every single day. This is one of the greatest tragedies of attachment. You become your own prison guard. The Buddha encouraged people to observe the mind carefully, not to stop thoughts from appearing. That is impossible. Thoughts naturally arise, but we can choose whether to follow them. Imagine sitting beside a river. Leaves float across the surface. Some are green, some are brown, some move quickly, some move slowly. Would you jump into the river to catch every leaf? Of course not. You simply watch them pass. The Buddha said, our thoughts can be treated the same way. Every painful memory is like another leaf floating past. You can notice it. You can acknowledge it. But you do not have to climb aboard and let it carry you away. Most people do exactly the opposite. One painful thought appears. Immediately they begin following it. Then another thought appears. Then another. Soon one memory becomes an hour of suffering. One betrayal becomes an entire day of emotional exhaustion. This is not because the event became larger. It is because the mind continued feeding it. There is another expectation that quietly creates suffering. The expectation that closure must come from the person who hurt us. Many people wait for an apology before allowing themselves to heal. They think, if they admit what they did, if they finally understand my pain, if they say they are sorry, then I can move on. But what happens if that apology never comes? What happens if they never admit they were wrong? What happens if they continue living their life without looking back? Does your peace disappear forever? The Buddha taught that waiting for another person to give you peace is another form of attachment. Your freedom cannot depend on another person's awareness. If your healing requires someone else to change, then your peace is no longer yours. It belongs to them. And that is a dangerous way to live. Real freedom begins when you stop waiting for permission to heal. The greatest apology is not always spoken. Sometimes it is your own decision to stop carrying yesterday into today. Acceptance does not mean saying betrayal was acceptable. It does not mean pretending nothing happened. It does not mean trusting harmful people again. Acceptance simply means seeing reality exactly as it is, instead of exhausting yourself wishing it were different. Acceptance says, I cannot change yesterday, but I can decide what I carry into tomorrow. This single decision changes everything. Many people misunderstand acceptance. They think accepting reality means giving up. The Buddha taught the opposite. Acceptance is where real strength begins, because only when you stop fighting reality Do you finally have the energy to build a better future? Imagine standing outside during a heavy rainstorm. You scream at the sky. You demand that the rain stop. You become angry because your clothes are wet. Hours pass. Nothing changes. The rain continues. Eventually, you realize something. The storm is not listening. So instead of arguing with the weather, you open an umbrella. Life becomes much easier. Betrayal is like that storm. You cannot stop yesterday from happening. You cannot force people to become who they refuse to become. You cannot rewrite the past. But you can choose how you walk through what remains. That choice belongs only to you. The Buddha taught that wisdom is not controlling life. Wisdom is learning how to meet life without losing your inner balance. Every painful experience gives you two paths. One path leads toward endless resentment. The other leads toward understanding. One path keeps asking, "Why did this happen to me?" The other quietly asks, "What is this experience teaching me?" The first question keeps you trapped in the past. The second begins opening the future. There is one final expectation that quietly causes immense suffering. The expectation that life should always be fair. Deep inside, almost everyone believes kindness should always be rewarded. Loyalty should always be returned. Honesty should always be appreciated. Love should always be protected. But life does not always unfold according to those expectations. Sometimes good people are betrayed. Sometimes honest people are deceived. Sometimes the kindest hearts experience the deepest pain. The Buddha never promised that life would always be fair. He promised that wisdom could free us even when life is unfair. That teaching is incredibly powerful, because it shifts your focus away from trying to control the world and toward mastering your own mind. The day you stop demanding that life match your expectations, you begin seeing life with clear eyes. You stop asking the impossible. You stop chasing certainty. You stop arguing with reality. Instead, you become flexible, calm, steady. You learn that peace does not come from creating a perfect life. It comes from creating a peaceful mind. And perhaps that is the deepest lesson betrayal can ever teach. Another person may have broken your trust, but only you can decide whether that broken trust becomes a lifetime of suffering. Do not allow one painful chapter to become the title of your entire story. The past deserves to be remembered, but it does not deserve to become your permanent home. The moment you release the expectations that keep you chained to yesterday, you finally create space for a tomorrow that no betrayal can destroy. That is the quiet freedom the Buddha wanted every person to discover. A freedom that no lie, no disappointment, and no broken promise can ever take away. Betrayal removes the masks that trust could never see. One of the greatest gifts hidden inside betrayal is a gift that almost nobody recognizes while they are suffering. It is clarity. When your heart is breaking, clarity does not feel like a gift. It feels like loss. It feels like disappointment. It feels like the end of something beautiful. But as time passes, you slowly begin to understand something the Buddha taught many centuries ago. Pain often removes the illusions that comfort never could. As long as life feels comfortable, the mind rarely questions anything. We believe what we want to believe. We trust what we want to trust. We ignore small warning signs because they interrupt the story we hope is true. Love has a beautiful side. It opens the heart. It teaches kindness. It teaches generosity. But if awareness is missing, love can also make us blind. Not blind because we are foolish, blind because the heart naturally wants to protect what it loves. So instead of seeing reality, we begin protecting an image. Have you ever noticed how people explain away behavior that they would never accept from anyone else? Someone lies once. We all make mistakes. Someone breaks a promise. They're just stressed. Someone becomes cold and distant. They're probably going through something. Someone repeatedly disrespects us. They don't really mean it. Little by little, excuses begin replacing awareness. Not because we cannot see the truth, but because accepting the truth feels more painful than denying it. The Buddha taught that attachment does not only hold on to people, it also holds on to stories. The story that this relationship must last. The story that this person could never hurt us. The story that everything will eventually become perfect if we simply wait a little longer. The problem is that reality does not change simply because we refuse to look at it. Truth remains truth even when we close our eyes. Imagine walking through a forest on a foggy morning. The trees are there. The path is there. The rocks are there, but the fog prevents you from seeing clearly. Now imagine the wind slowly removing that fog. Nothing in the forest changed. Only your vision changed. Betrayal often works the same way. The person did not suddenly become someone completely different overnight. Many times, the signs were already there. The selfishness, the dishonesty, the lack of gratitude, the broken promises, the disrespect, the emotional distance, the small lies that slowly became larger ones. But our hope covered those signs like thick morning fog. Then betrayal arrived. The fog disappeared. And suddenly, everything became visible. Many people say they changed overnight. Sometimes that happens. But often, what changed was not the person. It was your ability to finally see them clearly. The Buddha encouraged his followers to observe actions more carefully than words. Words are easy to speak. Promises are easy to make. Anyone can sound loyal when life is comfortable. Anyone can speak beautifully when nothing is being tested. But character is never revealed by easy moments. Character is revealed when desire appears, when temptation appears, when success appears, when suffering appears. Pressure removes masks. Difficulty reveals truth. Imagine placing gold into a fire. The fire does not destroy real gold. It removes everything that is not gold. Relationships experience the same kind of fire. When life becomes difficult, some people become more loyal, others disappear. Some become more compassionate, others become selfish. Some protect your heart, others protect only themselves. The difficult moments were never your enemy. They simply revealed what comfort had been hiding. This is why betrayal, painful as it is, often becomes one of life's greatest teachers. It answers questions you never thought to ask. Who truly values you? Who only values what you provide? Who stays when life becomes difficult? Who leaves when convenience disappears? Who celebrates your happiness? Who secretly envies it? These answers rarely appear during peaceful seasons. They appear when life becomes uncomfortable. The Buddha taught that wisdom begins the moment we stop resisting the truth. Many people continue chasing relationships long after trust has disappeared. Not because love still exists, but because they are chasing the memory of who the person used to be, or perhaps who they hoped that person would become. This is one of the mind's greatest traps. It keeps falling in love with potential instead of reality. It keeps waiting for someone to become the version that exists only in imagination. Years pass. Nothing changes. Because reality has been speaking all along. We simply refuse to listen. There is another reason betrayal brings clarity. It teaches you to distinguish between attention and genuine care. Some people enjoy being needed. They enjoy receiving your time, your energy, your kindness, your loyalty. But they never plan to protect your heart. To them, the relationship is useful, not sacred. The Buddha reminded people that true compassion is never selfish. Real love asks, "How can I protect your peace?" A selfish mind asks, "How much can I receive before you finally stop giving?" This difference is small at first, but over time it becomes impossible to ignore. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. That is why betrayal changes people, not only because it hurts, but because it teaches them to observe differently. They begin paying attention to consistency instead of charm, to actions instead of promises, to effort instead of beautiful words, to respect instead of temporary affection. These lessons are expensive. They cost tears. They cost sleepless nights. They cost disappointment. But they create wisdom that can protect your future. There is something else betrayal quietly reveals. It shows you who you become when life does not go your way. Some people become bitter. Some become cold. Some decide never to trust anyone again. But others become wiser, more aware, more peaceful, more selective. They do not build higher walls. They build clearer vision. This is exactly what the Buddha encouraged. Not fear, awareness, not suspicion, understanding, not closing the heart, opening the eyes. A wise person still loves deeply, still trusts, still cares, but they no longer ignore reality in order to protect a comforting illusion. Perhaps the greatest lesson of betrayal is this: the truth was never your enemy. The illusion was. The truth may break your heart for a moment, but illusion can keep you trapped for years. Truth sets you free. Illusion keeps you attached. Truth helps you grow. Illusion keeps you waiting. Truth asks you to move forward. Illusion begs you to stay where you are. The Buddha often reminded his followers that awakening begins the moment we see life exactly as it is. Not better, not worse, simply as it is. When betrayal removes the masks from another person's face, do not waste your energy trying to put those masks back on. Accept what has been revealed, because life is showing you something your heart desperately needs to understand. Not everyone who smiles at you wishes you well. Not everyone who stays beside you intends to stay forever. Not everyone who says, "I'll never hurt you," has the wisdom or character to keep that promise. That realization may feel painful, but it is infinitely more valuable than living inside a beautiful lie. The person who betrayed you took away your comfort, but they also gave you something precious, the ability to see clearly. And once your eyes are truly open, no illusion can ever deceive your heart in the same way again. That is not the end of your story. That is the beginning of your wisdom. The moment you refuse to hate, you reclaim your power. After betrayal, the mind immediately wants something: revenge. Not always through actions, sometimes through thoughts. The mind begins creating imaginary conversations. It imagines proving them wrong. It imagines watching them regret everything. It imagines the day they finally suffer the same pain they caused. At first, these thoughts feel satisfying. The mind believes they will somehow make the wound smaller. It whispers, "If they hurt the way I hurt, I will finally feel better." But the Buddha offered a completely different understanding. He taught that hatred never ends through more hatred. it only grows stronger. Every angry thought feeds another angry thought. Every desire for revenge strengthens the chain that already binds you to the past. Without realizing it, the person who betrayed you continues controlling your inner world, not because they are still present, but because your mind refuses to release them. Think about how much energy anger demands. You replay old memories. You remember every painful word. You imagine different endings. You wait for karma. You secretly hope life teaches them the lesson you wanted to teach. Days pass. Weeks pass. Months pass. Meanwhile, your own peace quietly slips away. The Buddha often asked his disciples to observe something very simple. When you hold anger inside your heart, who suffers first? The other person or you? The answer is almost always the same. Before hatred reaches anyone else, it burns the one carrying it. Imagine holding a burning torch because you want to throw it at someone. Long before the torch reaches them, it burns your own hand. Hatred works exactly the same way. Many people believe revenge makes them strong, but revenge often reveals how deeply another person still controls their emotions. Real strength begins when another person's actions no longer decide your inner state. This does not happen overnight. The Buddha never said healing would be easy. He simply showed that it was possible. Most people think forgiveness is something we give to another person, but true forgiveness is something we give ourselves. It is the decision to stop carrying unnecessary weight. Imagine walking through life with a heavy backpack filled with stones. Each stone represents one painful memory, one disappointment, one betrayal, one broken promise. Year after year, the bag becomes heavier. You grow tired, exhausted. Not because life itself became impossible, but because you refuse to put the stones down. Forgiveness is not pretending the stones never existed. Forgiveness is choosing not to carry them any longer. Many people misunderstand forgiveness. They think forgiving someone means saying, "What you did was acceptable." The Buddha never taught that. Forgiveness does not erase responsibility. It does not remove consequences. It does not mean inviting harmful people back into your life. It does not mean allowing someone to betray you again. Wisdom always walks beside compassion. You can forgive someone and still choose distance. You can release anger and still protect your peace. You can wish someone healing without allowing them access to your heart again. These are not contradictions. They are signs of maturity. The Buddha encouraged compassion, but he never encouraged foolishness. There is a difference between having an open heart and having no boundaries. An open heart loves. Healthy boundaries protect that love. Without boundaries, kindness becomes exhaustion. Without wisdom, compassion becomes self-neglect. Many people remain trapped because they confuse love with endless sacrifice. They believe being good means accepting every form of mistreatment. But kindness should never require you to abandon yourself. The Buddha repeatedly reminded people to walk the middle way. Not hatred, not blind attachment. Balance. You can be peaceful without becoming weak. You can be compassionate without becoming naive. You can love deeply without allowing yourself to be destroyed. There is another truth that many people never notice. Hatred keeps the past alive. Every time you replay what happened, every time you imagine revenge, every time you hope they suffer, you are giving yesterday another chance to steal today. The betrayal happened once, but your mind continues reliving it every morning. The other person may already be living a completely different life, yet inside your own heart, The story never ends. The Buddha taught that suffering continues only when we continue feeding it. Thought by thought, memory by memory, emotion by emotion. This does not mean painful memories suddenly disappear. They may still visit your mind, but you no longer invite them to stay. Imagine someone knocking on your front door. You hear the knock. You know they are there, but you do not have to invite them inside. Painful thoughts work the same way. You notice them. You acknowledge them. Then you gently let them pass. You do not build a home for them. This simple practice slowly changes everything. There is another kind of revenge the world rarely talks about. It is silent. It is peaceful. It requires no words, no arguments, no proving yourself. It is becoming so deeply healed that the person who once broke your heart no longer has the power to disturb your mind. Imagine hearing their name one day and feeling nothing but calm, no anger, no bitterness, no desire to explain yourself, no desire to make them regret losing you. Only peace. That is not weakness. That is freedom. The Buddha believed this was one of the highest forms of victory. Not defeating another person, but no longer needing to. Because the greatest prison is not another person's betrayal. The greatest prison is allowing that betrayal to define who you become. Some people spend the rest of their lives becoming harder after being hurt. They stop trusting. They stop loving. They stop believing in goodness. Their heart closes a little more every year. Eventually, the betrayal no longer lives only in memory. It becomes their personality. The Buddha warned against this. He taught that pain should become wisdom, not identity. There is a profound difference. A wise person remembers the lesson. A bitter person relives the wound. One becomes free, the other remains trapped. Ask yourself this question. Who do you want to become because of what happened? Do you want to become someone who suspects every act of kindness? Someone who pushes away every person who genuinely cares? Someone who believes every relationship will end the same way? Or do you want to become someone who understands people more deeply? Who chooses carefully? Who loves wisely? Who protects their peace without closing their heart? The answer will shape the rest of your life. The Buddha often reminded his followers that every moment offers a new choice. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, now, right now. You can continue feeding anger, or you can begin feeding peace. You can continue watering resentment, or you can begin growing wisdom. Both cannot grow in the same heart forever. One will eventually replace the other. The beautiful truth is that no one else can make this choice for you. Not the person who betrayed you, not your family, not your friends, only you. This is why reclaiming your power has nothing to do with changing another person's behavior. It has everything to do with changing your relationship with your own mind. The moment you stop waiting for revenge, the moment you stop needing an apology, the moment you stop hoping they finally understand your pain, something extraordinary happens. Your life begins moving again. The chains quietly fall away. Your heart becomes lighter. Your breath becomes deeper. Your smile becomes genuine. Not because the past disappeared, but because it no longer owns you. And perhaps that is the greatest victory any human being can achieve. To walk away from betrayal without carrying hatred. To lose someone's loyalty without losing your own kindness. To experience deep pain without becoming a source of pain for others. The person who betrayed you had the power to wound your heart, but they never had the power to decide the kind of person you would become. That decision has always belonged to you. And the day you choose peace over revenge, you do not simply forgive the past. You reclaim your future. That is the quiet strength the Buddha wanted every person to discover. A strength that no betrayal, no disappointment, and no broken promise can ever take away. The heart that survives betrayal becomes impossible to break. There comes a moment after every deep betrayal when you stand between two different lives. The first life is the one you planned, the one you imagined, the one you believed would happen. The second life is the one that begins after everything falls apart. At first, the second life feels like a punishment. It feels empty. It feels unfamiliar. It feels lonely. You wake up one morning and realize that the future you spent so much time dreaming about no longer exists. The person you trusted is gone. The promises are gone. The certainty is gone. For a while, it feels as though a part of you has disappeared with them. The Buddha understood this feeling. He knew that whenever attachment breaks, the mind immediately believes that something essential has been lost forever. But what if that is not the whole story? What if betrayal does not only take something away? What if it also reveals something that was hidden inside you all along? Most people discover their strength only after they have no other choice but to become strong. As long as life is comfortable, we rarely discover who we truly are. When someone is always protecting us, we never learn how powerful we can become on our own. When someone is always making us feel worthy, we may never learn how to value ourselves. When someone is always deciding our direction, we may never discover our own path. Comfort hides many abilities. Difficulty reveals them. This is one of the deepest teachings of the Buddha. Growth rarely begins when life gives us everything we want. Growth often begins when life removes everything we believed we could not live without. Think about a bird. As long as it remains inside the egg, it is protected. It feels warm. It feels safe. But if the shell never breaks, the bird never learns to fly. From the outside, the breaking of the shell looks like destruction. In reality, it is the beginning of freedom. Many betrayals work in exactly the same way. The shell around your old life breaks apart. At first, all you see is loss. But slowly, very slowly, something new begins to emerge. You begin making decisions without needing someone else's approval. You begin spending time with yourself without feeling afraid. You begin enjoying quiet moments that once felt unbearable. You begin realizing that your happiness does not disappear simply because one person disappeared. These changes are almost invisible at first. But day by day, they quietly reshape your entire life. The Buddha often reminded his followers that suffering has the power either to awaken wisdom or to deepen ignorance. The event itself does not decide the outcome. Your response does. Two people can experience the same betrayal. One spends the next 20 years blaming the world. The other spends those same years understanding themselves more deeply. One becomes bitter. The other becomes peaceful. One loses faith in everyone. The other learns to trust with greater wisdom. The pain was similar. The choices were different. That is why betrayal never has the final word. Your response does. There is another beautiful truth hidden inside heartbreak. It strips away false identities. Many people unknowingly build their entire identity around another person. I am valuable because they love me. I matter because they chose me. My future depends on them. Without realizing it, their sense of self slowly moves outside themselves. The Buddha warned against placing your identity into anything that can disappear. Because if your identity depends upon another person, then every change in that relationship changes the way you see yourself. This is why betrayal often feels like losing your own identity, not only because someone left, but because you forgot who you were before they arrived. Healing begins when you remember. You remember your own dreams, your own voice, your own values, your own purpose. You remember that long before they entered your life, you were already alive. You were already growing. You were already worthy. And after they leave, those truths remain. The Buddha encouraged people to discover something that cannot be taken away. Not beauty, not money, not praise, not relationships, but inner awareness. Because awareness remains even when everything else changes. Imagine standing beside a great tree during a violent storm. The branches move wildly. Leaves fall. Some small branches even break. But the roots remain deep in the earth. When the storm finally passes, the tree is still standing. Many people spend their lives strengthening only their branches, their reputation, their appearance, their relationships, their achievements, but they never strengthen their roots. Then one storm arrives. Everything collapses. The Buddha wanted us to strengthen our roots instead. Your roots are your wisdom, your values, your character, your peace, your compassion, your understanding. When these become strong, life can shake your branches, but it cannot destroy your foundation. There comes a beautiful moment in every healing journey. A moment so quiet that many people almost miss it. One day you wake up and you realize you did not think about them first thing in the morning. A week later, you laugh without forcing yourself. A month later, you hear a song that once made you cry. Now it simply reminds you how far you have come. Little by little, the wound stops controlling your days. The memories remain, but they no longer control your emotions. The Buddha compared healing to watching muddy water settle. If you constantly stir the water, it remains cloudy. But if you allow it to become still, the mud slowly sinks to the bottom. The water becomes clear again. Your heart heals the same way. Not by forcing yourself to forget, not by pretending nothing happened, but by giving yourself enough stillness for the pain to settle naturally. After healing, different things begin to matter. Consistency, honesty, peace, emotional maturity, kindness shown when nobody is watching. You stop chasing intensity. You begin valuing stability. You stop asking, "Who makes my heart race?" You begin asking, "Who brings peace into my life?" That single change protects your future more than almost anything else. The Buddha believed that wisdom is not collecting more knowledge. Wisdom is seeing life differently after experience has changed you. That is exactly what betrayal can do, if you allow it. Instead of becoming smaller, you become deeper. Instead of becoming harder, you become calmer. Instead of becoming fearful, you become more aware. Instead of depending on one person to complete you, you begin discovering the completeness that has always existed within you. Perhaps this is why some of the wisest people carry scars. Not because suffering made them special, but because they refused to waste their suffering. They transformed it into understanding, into compassion, into strength, into peace. There is one final truth the Buddha wanted every person to understand. No one can promise you that betrayal will never happen again. Life offers no such guarantee. People will continue changing. Some relationships will continue ending. Some disappointments will continue arriving. But there is something much greater than certainty. There is inner stability. When your peace comes from within, the world can shake around you without destroying you. People may disappoint you, but they cannot steal your character. They may walk away, but they cannot take your wisdom. They may break promises, but they cannot break the strength you built through healing. That is why the heart that has truly healed from betrayal becomes incredibly powerful. Not because it never feels pain again, but because it no longer fears pain. It understands that every storm eventually passes, every wound eventually teaches, every ending eventually opens another beginning. And every broken chapter carries within it the possibility of becoming the chapter that changes your entire life. Perhaps the person who betrayed you believed they were ending your story. In reality, they were ending only one chapter. The rest of the book is still waiting to be written, this time by a stronger heart, a wiser mind, and a soul that finally understands its own unshakable worth. That is the quiet transformation the Buddha called awakening. And once that awakening begins, no betrayal can ever truly break you again. Your greatest revenge is a peace no one can steal. If there is one lesson the Buddha wanted every person to understand after experiencing betrayal, it is this: your greatest victory will never come from making someone else suffer. It will come from reaching a place where they no longer have the power to disturb your peace. Most people believe revenge is about proving something, proving that they were wrong, proving that you were valuable, proving that they made the biggest mistake of their life. The mind imagines many different endings. It dreams about becoming successful, so they regret leaving. It dreams about finding someone better, so they feel jealous. It dreams about hearing an apology that finally satisfies the heart. For a moment, these thoughts feel comforting. They make us believe justice is waiting somewhere in the future. But the Buddha gently asked a question that changes everything. If your happiness still depends on another person's regret, are you truly free? Think about that for a moment. If your peace depends on someone else changing, then your peace does not belong to you. It belongs to them. If you need another person to admit they were wrong before you can smile again, then they are still controlling your heart, even from far away. This is why the Buddha never described freedom as changing other people. He described freedom as mastering your own mind. Real freedom begins the moment your emotional life no longer depends on another person's actions. Imagine standing in front of a mirror. Someone throws mud at the mirror. The mirror becomes dirty. For a while, you cannot see your reflection clearly. But does the mud change who you are? No. It only covers the surface. Your true reflection remains exactly the same beneath it. Betrayal is like that mud. It may cover your confidence. It may cover your joy. It may cover your trust. But it never changes your true worth. Healing is not creating a new self. Healing is simply wiping away everything that made you forget who you already were. Many people spend years trying to rebuild their confidence after betrayal. The Buddha would remind them of something beautiful. Your value was never given to you by another person, so another person cannot take it away. Think about the sun. Some days dark clouds hide it completely. The sky becomes gray. The world feels darker. But the sun never stopped shining. It was only hidden from view. Your worth is exactly like that. Pain may hide it. Fear may hide it. Disappointment may hide it. But nothing can destroy it. The moment you remember this truth, you stop chasing validation from the people who failed to recognize your value. There is another kind of freedom that betrayal quietly offers. the freedom from needing everyone's approval. Before betrayal, many people spend their lives trying to keep everyone happy. They avoid difficult conversations. They stay silent when something feels wrong. They ignore disrespect because they fear losing the relationship. Little by little, they abandon themselves to avoid being abandoned by others. The Buddha warned that whenever you betray your own heart to please the world, inner suffering quietly begins. Because every time you ignore your own truth, you move farther away from yourself. Sometimes betrayal becomes the painful event that finally teaches you to stop abandoning yourself. For the first time, you begin saying no without feeling guilty. You begin protecting your time. You begin protecting your energy. You begin protecting your peace. Not because you have become cold, but because you have finally understood that your peace is sacred. There is a powerful difference between building walls and building wisdom. Walls keep everyone out. Wisdom simply lets the right people in. Many people confuse these two things. After being betrayed, they decide, "I will never trust anyone again. I will never love again. I will never open my heart again." The Buddha never encouraged living in fear. Fear is simply another prison. Instead, he encouraged awareness. Love again, but love wisely. Trust again, but trust slowly. Open your heart, but never close your eyes. The strongest heart is not the one that refuses to love. It is the one that loves without losing itself. There comes a beautiful moment in every healing journey, a moment that cannot be forced. It simply arrives. One day, you remember the person who betrayed you, but instead of feeling anger, you feel gratitude. Not gratitude for the pain itself, but gratitude for the wisdom it gave you. You realize that without that experience, you might never have discovered your own strength. You might never have learned healthy boundaries. You might never have awakened to the value of inner peace. The Buddha believed that every painful experience carries a hidden teacher. The lesson only appears when resentment finally leaves. Until then, we see only the wound. After healing, we begin seeing the wisdom. Imagine climbing a mountain. The journey is exhausting. Your legs ache. You question whether you can continue. But once you reach the top, you look back at the difficult path. Suddenly, the struggle has a different meaning. It was not there to stop you. It was preparing you for the view waiting above. Many betrayals are like that mountain. While you are climbing, all you feel is pain. Only later do you realize the journey transformed you into someone stronger than you had ever imagined. The Buddha often reminded people that true wealth is not measured by what you own. It is measured by the condition of your mind. A peaceful mind is greater than wealth, greater than praise, greater than status, because everything outside you can disappear. Money comes and goes. Relationships change. Beauty fades. Success rises and falls. But the person who has mastered their own mind carries peace everywhere they go. That peace cannot be stolen. No betrayal can steal it. No rejection can steal it. No lie can steal it. No disappointment can steal it, because it no longer depends on the outside world. This is what awakening truly means. Not escaping pain, not avoiding loss, not living a perfect life. Awakening means discovering a place within yourself that remains calm while life continues changing around you. Like the deep ocean, storms may disturb the surface, huge waves may crash above. But in the deepest part of the ocean, there is stillness. The Buddha wanted every person to discover that stillness inside themselves. not outside, within. When your peace comes from within, you stop living in fear. You stop fearing rejection. You stop fearing loneliness. You stop fearing betrayal, because you know something that fear can never understand. You know that no matter what happens, you will never abandon yourself again, and that changes everything. The world becomes lighter. Relationships become healthier. Love becomes freer. You stop trying to control people. You stop trying to force outcomes. You stop chasing certainty. Instead, you begin trusting your own ability to face whatever life brings. This is real confidence. Not believing that nothing bad will ever happen, but knowing that whatever happens, you have the wisdom to meet it with calmness. Perhaps the person who betrayed you believed they were taking something from you, your trust, your happiness, your future, but without realizing it, they pushed you towards something far greater, a version of yourself that no longer depends on another person's approval, a version of yourself that knows its own worth, a version of yourself that walks through life with quiet confidence instead of constant fear. That transformation is priceless, because once you discover peace within yourself, the world loses its power to control you. People may leave, but your peace remains. People may misunderstand you, but your peace remains. People may disappoint you, but your peace remains. Life may continue changing, but your peace remains. And perhaps that is the greatest victory any human being can ever achieve. Not a life without betrayal, not a life without disappointment, but a heart so deeply rooted in wisdom that nothing outside it can shake what has been built within. This is why the Buddha taught that the strongest person is not the one who conquers others, it is the one who conquers their own mind. Because the moment you no longer need revenge, no longer need validation, no longer need an apology, no longer need another person to complete your happiness, you become truly free. That freedom cannot be bought. It cannot be given. It cannot be taken away. It is born the moment you realize that your greatest victory was never changing the person who betrayed you. Your greatest victory was becoming the person that betrayal could never destroy. And once you reach that place, you carry something more valuable than perfect relationships, more valuable than praise, more valuable than success. You carry a peaceful heart, and a peaceful heart is the greatest treasure this world can never steal. If there is one lesson I hope you carry with you after this journey, let it be this: not everyone who betrays you is meant to remain in your life. Some people arrive to bring you comfort. Others arrive to awaken your wisdom. The person who broke your trust may have changed your story, but they never had the power to define your future. That choice has always belonged to you. From this moment forward, do not allow one person's actions to make you lose faith in kindness. Do not allow one betrayal to convince you that every heart is the same. Most importantly, do not allow another person's darkness to take away your own inner light. The Buddha taught that true peace is not found in a world where no one ever hurts you. True peace is found in becoming someone whose heart remains steady even when life is unpredictable. Someone whose happiness is no longer controlled by another person's choices. Someone who has learned to love without attachment, to trust with wisdom, and to walk through every storm without losing themselves. Perhaps that is why this painful chapter entered your life. Not to make you bitter, but to make you wiser. Not to close your heart, but to open your eyes. And not to destroy you, but to reveal the strength that was quietly waiting inside you all along. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this message spoke to your heart, take a moment to share in the comments. My peace begins within. Those 4 words may become a promise not only to yourself, but also an inspiration for someone else who is silently carrying the weight of betrayal. If you found wisdom in today's journey, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and join our growing community where we explore the timeless teachings of Buddhism to help you find greater peace, clarity, and inner freedom. Until we meet again, protect your peace, guard your heart with wisdom, and remember, the greatest victory in life is never changing another person. It is becoming the kind of person that no betrayal can ever break.